Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, it's Joseph Dupont, host today of Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast. And today we've got Sid Bullard that's come into the studio to meet with us and talk to us about his life. And Sid, thanks so much for coming, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. It's been my honor.
Yeah, great to have you.
Glad to see you guys.
Yeah. Sid, I've got to know you a little bit over the time, but tell us the background. Like, what do you do? What's your business?
Well, my main business is I'm a commercial real estate broker.
Okay.
And I've been in the floor covering business for, I hate to say it, 50 years.
So before you were born?
Yeah, before I was born, yeah. So we still do a lot of floor covering. Commercial real estate, we do, I have a small firm, just myself and my daughter.
Okay.
We buy and sell commercial real estate as well as residential stuff. Whatever we buy in residential, we usually keep because I'm looking for the long term, for retirement type stuff, And I feel this house flipping is way
overrated, yeah.
Overrated, and it's past. It's done, you know.
Yeah, it's because people. There's been so many middlemen brought in.
Yeah.
That it's like they're few and far between.
Yeah. And people paying too much for properties right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they have somebody that sells it to a wholesaler, that sells it to a wholesaler, that sells it to a wholesaler.
Unless you get a steal, it's not really worth it anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, did you grow up in that industry? Man, what's your background?
No, my dad was a doctor.
Okay.
So he kind of, I went to Holy Cross. Me and my two brothers went to Holy Cross. So we were brought up with a good Christian family. But like most guys, we strayed a little bit,
Yeah.
But so I think by living in my parents wasn't rich, but he was a physician, so he did well. It ingrained that I want to live better than other people.
Yeah.
So I like buying nice things.
Yeah, I want to be successful.
Yeah, so that's kind of really, I think,
I've been broke and I've been wealthy. Wealthy's a lot more fun.
Yes, yeah, right. I've been there too, man.
So you got out of high school. You went to college to.
I went to college for 1 year,
okay.
And it really wasn't. I wasn't really a good student.
Yeah.
I went to work for a major airline.
Yeah,
after
somebody
that.
offered me a job one time. I said, I'm a horrible employee.
Yeah. Well, I had a good job at a major airline.
Okay.
Starting off at the bottom of the totem pole, and it was great money.
Where'd you work?
I worked for Delta Airlines.
Okay.
It was great money at that time, but I saw guys over there that had been there 10 years, and it just was not where I wanted to be in 10 years.
Right. That's important. Mm-hmm. So that's a perspective that a lot of people don't actually get.
Right.
It's like, look at somebody in your industry that's been in it for 10 years or longer and think to yourself, is that who I want to be?
Exactly.
In 10 years.
Yeah.
If I'm just as successful, is that success?
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so you went through Delta, and then you said, okay, I don't like this.
Then I started, and the rules and regulations, you got to have your hair cut like this, and I was a great employee, but I just couldn't take the supervision.
Yeah.
So I started a construction company back then, and we started painting houses, and eventually I got into the floor covering business.
Okay.
Which has been really, really fruitful.
This was like 1976?
72.
72, okay.
Yeah.
72.
Yeah. Because I'm 75 years old.
Yeah, I understand.
I got started doing that, and it just really blossomed, and so I continued doing that for a long time.
All right. So you continue doing the floor covering and stuff like that. Like, so were you doing it commercially? Or
we did a lot of commercial, both.
So you had a store, or you had a?
No, I didn't have a store.
Okay. How'd you get into that? Like that's
it kind of by accident. I was doing a construction job, and people needed to carpet. And I went and talked to my brother-in-law who worked for Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
And he said, man, why don't you just do it yourself? I said, hey, that's a great idea. Okay. So I was hooked up with some of the suppliers.
This is 72, so I mean, like,
yeah.
To say you hooked up with some of the suppliers, it wasn't like today. You don't get on Google or Chat GPT and say, who's the local suppliers for carpet?
Yeah.
How did you find the suppliers?
Oh, it's not hard.
Okay.
You know, and back then
you went to flooring stores and asked who your suppliers, or
no, you kind of know. Yeah, you ask around a little bit, you know. And
Okay.
back then they had a lot of local distributors.
okay,
You know, people that would buy from the flooring mills in Georgia. They'd come down here, they'd buy it at a discount, they'd discount a little bit, and they sell it to carpet stores. There's none of them anymore because it's been so easy for dealers to buy directly from the factory now.
okay.
So
With
yes,
with the internet and you know everything.
not necessarily the internet, it's just that it's been easier
to communicate and to buy.
communicate with the mills, and
Yeah.
and you can get it down here in 3 days.
Right.
It was nice to be able to go buy from a distributor and pick up your flooring today and put it in tomorrow, but they didn't do enough business, and eventually they all closed up.
So from 72 till like you're still doing the floor covering.
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
huh?
yeah,
Yeah,
mhm.
see, I know you. Yeah, I've gotten some floor covering for different restaurants that we remodeled from you.
Right.
So you're still doing the floor covering, but so did you ever like you pivoted like out of the closed down? I guess the construction side of things.
No,
you
we
stopped
still
doing-
do some
Okay, you
commercial,
still do some
commercial
construction.
renovations. We do light commercial renovations. So,
So at what point did you say, "Hey, I'm going to become a real estate agent"?
well, I've always wanted to be in real estate. I actually got my license when I was like 24 years old.
Okay.
But I was making so much money in the flooring business, I just neglected it, let my real estate license lapse, and when I was ready to go back, I had to take my real estate course again, because I always wanted to be in real estate.
Right.
You know.
So when did you go back and take your course again?
Oh, probably in 1990, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1990, you took your course again, and you how did the COVID affect you? Did that affect the real estate industry or the?
It affected everything.
It affected the building and the
Yeah.
carpet and everything else. So
Yeah.
like you, like how did you manage to make it through? Did you make any adjustments, or you just?
Well, I would think,
Depth in your savings,
with
or-
my the way I work, I'm always hustling. You know.
That's the key. That's the reason I have you on the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm digging down to find, like, I've always known you to be the hustler. Like
Yeah.
you're always you've always been that guy that you just figure out how to make the deal.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of been your MO that I've seen since I've been around you. I've only known you for 5-7
Yeah.
years. But
And now these guys sit back and they wait. They think they can do all the stuff on a computer and all that stuff. You got to get out there and network with people.
yeah, talk to people.
Yeah.
Actually shake their hands and get
And
to know them.
and you got to look. And I see these young guys out there. You know, I tell them, dude, you look a mess. What's with the way you look? You always got to look sharp. You got to dress well. And these guys out there trying to do business, I said, I wouldn't do business with you if I
I'm
wanted.
laughing because I today, we've got a firewood business that I do for residential and commercial, and I was hiring new staff, and I hired a new guy today.
Yeah.
And I drove up to the lot to train him, and I thought it was Mr. T.
Really?
Like he had on a muscle shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. He had on a necklace with a turtle shell in the
Oh
middle.
my God, really?
And,
Yeah.
And some type of horn sticking out this side and sticking out this side, earrings and stuff.
Oh,
all
my
in his
God.
hair. I was like, dude, are we going to carnival or are we going to do firewood?
Yeah.
How are you going to even deliver firewood like
Yeah.
that? So I'm with you. Like it's funny because like the generation just doesn't understand. Like
Yeah, they
you
don't,
got to dress
man.
well. You've always dressed sharp. so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like-
Ever
to
since
step
I
up
was
my
in
game
business,
today,
I always
just-
dressed
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
One day it's funny, my sister, she saw me on the weekend. I was at Home Depot or something, and she was with her lady friend, and they said, "Hey, that your brother?" He says, "Oh no, my brother doesn't dress like that." She said, "You know, she knows the way I dress." And especially if you're going out to meet someone for the first time,
Yeah.
is the most important.
Dress for success.
That first impression is all the difference. I know how it is with me. If somebody comes to me and they don't look like they should for the position they're doing, I probably wouldn't do business with them.
Yeah. I had the same thing where, like, I made it a point that anytime I would go into a business situation, I would evaluate, like, how are they going to be dressed? And I try to dress like them,
Yeah.
just to where they feel comfortable in that situation,
Right.
where it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to, now with Secure Trade, like, I run the trade group in Baton Rouge, and I if I'm going to talk to mechanics, that day, and I literally have to, like, change what
Dress
I'm dressed
down,
like.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear a polo shirt or something that's not like so suit and tie.
Right. Yeah.
But if I go talk to lawyers, I need to be suit and tie.
Yeah, because you want to, and I find the first couple seconds is where you're going to control the room.
Mhm.
If you go in there and you walk in like you own the place, you're going to make a much better impression on these people, your clients or whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you ever had any partnerships or anything in business that?
No, not really. I mean, I had a hotel that we built for the World's Fair. I had 5 partners in there.
Wait a second. You built a hotel for the 1984 World's Fair?
Yeah.
Here in New Orleans.
Mhm.
What hotel did you build?
It's me and my partners own the hotel at Veterans and Williams Boulevard. I think it's a Red Roof Inn now.
Okay.
And in the restaurant front there, which is Don Juan's, we built both of those properties.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you built those, and you had 5 partners, and then after the World's Fair, y'all just
World's Fair was a flop.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that. I mean,
yeah.
It was a flop.
Yeah, we all lost it. We lost it back to the bank and all. So
Okay, so that was a moment of. I mean, you said that flippantly because you're past. You said you're 70 what?
75.
Okay, you're 75
Yeah.
now. So you said that flippantly because it was way back there, and
Right.
when you were full of piss and vinegar.
Right. Yeah. And we did. Besides the flooring, we renovated hotels. We did a lot of new hotels for the World's Fair. We did like 1,000 rooms.
Okay.
Furniture, carpet, wood, and we did everything. So we made a really good amount of money, and I invested it back into the hotel. So, which was a bad decision.
Yeah. So you
Because-
lost all your.
We had
earnings.
back then. I had to file bankruptcy for $6 million. So
Okay.
it was pretty tough.
Something my dad taught me, and he's passed now, but he taught me, he said, the difference between a $6 million bankruptcy and a $10 bankruptcy? He said nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
He said, go big or go home.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna. It's not gonna be like, oh, I only went bankrupt for $10,000.
Yeah. So I was about 40 years old then.
So you were 40 years old.
40, yeah.
40 years old, and you filed bankruptcy. And did you feel like that you had a path forward out of that, or did you?
Oh yeah. I just picked it up and got after it again, starting from zero.
I needed to drill down a little bit there. You picked up and started again. So most people who file bankruptcy, they just go into a state of funk where they're just depressed, and they, their wife's asking them how we're going to pay for school for the kids, and and all that kind
When
of
you
stuff.
have family and you have responsibilities, there's no excuse for not going back to work the next day.
So you just jumped up and said, "Hey."
Oh yeah.
So you went back into doing construction, or
Flooring.
just drill down more.
The flooring has always been very successful for me.
Okay. So you drilled back down into flooring and just went and did that. How did you find your jobs? So you filed bankruptcy. So that means that you lost all of your credit. But how did you
don't really need credit to be in business.
No, but I'm saying to get your flooring, you had to go finance it, right? I mean,
No,
or you just pay cash for.
Yeah, we pay cash mostly because I don't believe in financing your suppliers.
Okay.
None of my suppliers now. We don't owe them any money, because what happens is you make a big job and you say, well, I'm gonna pay that supplier the next job.
Yeah, and the next job don't come.
And so there's probably a whole bunch of flooring companies in this town that are just living on their cash flow.
Yeah, they're just keeping on pushing the
Exactly.
ball forward and waiting for the next shoe.
So I don't really believe in a credit line.
Yeah.
When I do a job for somebody, I get half up front, pay my suppliers. Then when we get finished, we take the other half. So
well, that makes sense, man. So I think finding a need and filling it is really what you learned how to do. Did your other business partners that you had in the hotel all bounce back, or?
Most of them had jobs, JOBs.
Okay.
So they just continued.
They just continued working.
What they were doing, yeah.
They just lost their shirts and just kept on going. I remember Catfish Town, when I was a kid. That was in the 80s in Baton Rouge. And then I came to the World's Fair and I actually rode the gondola.
Oh, did you?
I rode the gondola across. I can say I remember I didn't get stuck.
I think a couple times. Yes, right. Yeah.
I heard about that after I rode the gondola. I rode the gondola across, and I only went it was right here in New Orleans, and I'm from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
I only went I think once.
I hate to say it, I never went to the World's Fair.
There you go. You're
Not
the
at
reason
all.
why it failed, man.
Yeah, that's right. But we were anticipating like $120 a night in room rate, and we were lucky to get 70.
Right.
You know.
And this was before Priceline and
Hotwire
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was.
But we were a Quality Inn.
Okay.
So we had that franchise.
Okay.
I think they were charging us like 6 or 7% franchise fee.
Okay.
But we just couldn't fill the rooms.
Yeah, couldn't get the rooms filled.
Because New Orleans got such a bad rap.
Right.
With all the politics and the payoffs and this and that, you know, and the delays for the World's Fair. So.
Well, I mean, I know we're facing, we're coming at it again. Like, you know, Mardi Gras is coming up, and we just went through the New Year's attack that happened downtown. I know that's on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
They're saying,
but
like,
people love coming to New Orleans. They building new hotels all the time.
Yeah, but I think to me, like the resilience of it is what is one of the reasons why I wanted to have on the podcast, is because to be 75 and still every day active and doing your business, and you know, and I feel like
I love working.
You'll be working to the day you die.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I remember my dad. You know, he owned Cajun CJ's, which, by the way, I brought a bag for you.
All right,
of,
great.
My dad's gumbo.
Thank you.
Cajun CJ's gumbo, sponsors of the show. But I just wanted to bless you with that. But so my dad, for 35 years, had Cajun CJ's.
Yeah.
And I grew up with him cooking. He was always cooking in the kitchen. And it's funny, in a Cajun household, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
My mom cooked breakfast, but my dad cooked anytime that there was like a gumbo or a or any of that kind of stuff that was going on. My dad was in the kitchen cooking couscous and all those kind of things. But I remember my dad, they asked him, what are your hobbies, on one of the bank forms that he was filling out, and he said, working.
Yeah.
That was his hobby,
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, he was 80 whenever he passed away 3 years ago, but that was his mindset. And I remember when we were in the hospital, my dad, he got stage 4 cancer in October and then passed in December. And we did everything we could. We went to Tijuana to do specialty treatment with a facility over there. And I remember, like, I went home for Christmas on the 23rd, and I came back on the 25th, Christmas Day, to see my dad.
Yeah.
And whenever I came back into the hospital that we were in, it was more of a hospice type setting, you know, like where it wasn't like a hospital, but it was a hospital. But anyway, so I remember I went in there and he could barely talk because he had throat cancer, so it was hurting to talk. And so when he wanted to talk to me, he'd just wave his hand, you know, come over here, and I would have to get right up close to his ear, and I got right up close to his ear. And I felt like, I mean, we sort of knew like he was in that final stages, where like this is going to be the significant thing my dad's going to pass on to me, the mantle of this is where I hid the money, you know, or whatever. Something was going to be great. And he got me to bend over and he whispered in my ear, he said, "Did you order the jambalaya?" It's like, Dad, I got the jambalaya business. You're good. And that was like his thing. Like he wanted to make sure that for him, it was like a legacy, to pass on. And so, like for you, like what do you feel like your legacy? You got your daughter working with you.
Yes.
What's your legacy? Like, what's the thing you're going to leave your mark on this world?
Well, I hope to leave a bunch of real estate for them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I really started buying real estate really late in my life, probably after 65. And I have like 5 properties now.
Okay, so you started at 65. So it wasn't that long ago.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you figured out how
because
not to
when
do
you
it
got
with
you got
hotels.
family that you're putting kids through private school. I mean, I had twin girls and they were both at Mount Carmel for like 5 years. You know, it hit me pretty hard.
Twin girls.
Yeah.
Okay, so you still are they both in your business or?
No, one of them has a license and the other one is working on her license.
Okay, so they're going to be working with
you. Yes, they're both 35.
Okay, so I grew up in my dad's business. Like, so my dad did the jambalaya business for the last 35 years of his life, but the first 30 years of his life, he did RVs.
Oh, really?
And
yeah.
So like I grew up with my dad. Basically, if I was going to hang out with my dad,
right, you had to learn the business. Huh?
I had to go to work. You know what I'm saying? I remember being 10 years old and working 10-hour days. And all my friends were like, "It's summer, we get to get out." And I was like, "It's summer."
Well, we're talking about 10-hour days, and I'm going to have a talk with somebody I know real soon about this particular thing. Some people go in business and they think it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You should be the first one at the office and the last one to leave.
Right.
That's how I am almost every day.
Right.
Always working. But you can't do the 9 to 5 and not work on weekends.
Right.
Especially when you're starting out. Maybe later on in your life you can kick back a little bit. But man, when you're starting out, it's got to be.
You got to learn how to hustle. I think that the mindset of just continuing forward.
Right.
And I mean, have you ever in your, I'm sure you have, but in your flooring business or in the real estate business, have you ever like come up against a wall, basically hit an obstacle to where you just thought, hey, this is it?
I think you're always going to have that happen.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, how'd you get through it? I guess what I'm saying, like if you get to the wall and it's like, this is it.
You just got to go on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but
just move around the wall.
You still got responsibilities, you know. Yeah, you move around the wall.
Yeah. I remember I had a guy, and that's what we talked about with Tenacious. Tenacious is really just saying that, like, it's whatever it takes.
Right.
Like, it's not, they ask me what your job is. You're the business owner. Some days it's washing bottles, and some days it's cooking food, and some days
it's whatever it takes.
I'm chief cook and head chef.
Tomorrow, Saturday, I got to go and vacuum my office.
and that's it. So nothing was below you.
Yes, right.
Nothing's beneath you. I remember whenever I had a one of my suppliers for the firewood company that we had, and I remember I was talking to him, and it was the middle of a busy season, and we were like, crazy busy trying to get firewood out, and he called me and said, "Hey, I just won't be able to have firewood for 2 or 3 weeks," and I was buying like probably $2,000 to $5,000 worth of firewood a day.
Wow.
So we're talking about he's going to go $20,000-$30,000 that he's not going to make.
Wow.
And it was all profit for him, pure profit.
Yeah.
Because he just got the trees for free and split
Cuts them up, yeah.
And so he was like, "Yeah, both my splitters went down, and so I won't have wood for 2 weeks." and I thought to myself, man, if that was me,
I'd go rent one.
I'd go rent a.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like this, that being tenacious means like you don't just say, "Oh well, we're not going to be able to have wood today."
Yeah.
Like if I told my customers, "Oh well, I'm not going to bring you any firewood," I wouldn't have customers for long.
Yeah.
I mean, God's blessed us. We had 2,000 customers now, and we're doing well with the firewood business. But that's just a side business for me. I got 7 businesses, but thank God that I was able to just press through. And I think that would be the key takeaway is like, you didn't just, go bankrupt and then go into depression and hide in your house.
Right.
You said, okay, I've got a family.
Right.
What's next?
Yeah, exactly. You got to move on.
Like take that hat off and put another hat on and say, let's go to work.
Yep.
And then you figure it out, So get into your first house. Like you said, you first started buying hotels or buying houses, and you said it's 65.
Oh, in houses.
Houses.
Yeah, hotel was going after we.
Yeah, after that first one, you were
after that first one, I didn't want no.
You took that lesson.
And one of my good friends who had been in the hotel
business.
business.
$6 million school.
Yeah.
You went through a university right there.
He told me, he said, "Sid, don't do it." And your ego steps in. Oh, I want to be a hotel owner and all this stuff. I want to be this and that. So you gotta take your ego out of the equation.
Yeah.
And do what's best for yourself. Now I'm super conservative.
Yeah.
About everything I do.
Yeah, I remember I was going through an airport in Atlanta, and I was flying to go out to speak at some public event that I was going to in Colorado or someplace. I don't remember where I was going, but my pastor, Larry Stockshill, was flying through the airport at the same time, and we just happened to bump into each other, like in front of a Starbucks, of all places.
Yeah, right.
And he said, "Hey man, let's get a cup of coffee. My flight's not for an hour. Your flight's not for an hour. Like, let's get a cup of coffee." And so I sat down with him. We visited and drank coffee, and I love him. And he's a great guy. He's a amazing pastor. And I sat down with him and visited with him, and he said, "Well, Joey, what are you doing nowadays?" And at the time, I just started a gravel pit, and it was. I told him everything was going on with the RV dealership and the campgrounds and the transportation company and all the different stuff I was doing. And I said, yeah, and we started a gravel pit, and we're going to do really well with that. And he paused for a second. And he said, "Joey," he said, "Man, I would give you advice that like you need to focus on the things that are in your peripherals." He said, RV dealership, campground, transportation company for the RV dealership, gravel pit.
Yeah. Doesn't match.
He said, gravel pit's like behind you.
Yeah.
And he said, you're going to have to take your eyes off of this
Right.
to go focus on that if you're going to make it successful. And he said, you got to choose one.
Right.
And I remember when he said it, and I feel guilty now to this day thinking about it, but I thought, he's a pastor.
Yeah, right. What's he know?
What does he know,
right.
man? I mean, like, come on. Now, granted, he's a pastor of a mega church now. That back then it wasn't as mega, but he's pastor of a mega church, and has been super successful, and he has generational leadership, and like he's super smart.
Yeah.
And you know what? That gravel pit destroyed my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was absolutely. It hung a noose around my neck. It was bleeding and hemorrhaging $20,000 to $30,000 a day.
Yeah.
And so that gravel pit was the single
Right.
bad decision. I think having people around you
Yeah.
is not the answer that can
Right.
tell you, hey, that's not a good idea. Having people around you listen to,
Yeah.
that's the key.
That's kind of like with my business now. Everything is kind of related to real estate.
Yeah.
I'm not doing like something like you saying, go off something that doesn't make sense or doesn't match everything else you're doing,
Because you can't focus on it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I can tell you, man, I've learned to delegate, and that's really been a good thing for me, is like figuring out how to delegate to different.
That's the problem I have.
Okay.
Delegating.
You don't like delegating?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah. So.
And it's probably a fault of myself because I'm such a perfectionist
Yeah.
that nobody can do it as good as I can.
So Rick Hornsby is somebody that was a guy that was a pastor at the church, but he was he told me one time, he said, look, if you want something done and you want it done right, delegate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Do it yourself. That's what you do.
Yeah, right.
And he said, no. He said, delegate it. He said, you're going to have to maybe delegate it to 5 different people to get it done. You may have to break your ability down to 5 different job sets. But he said, once you do that, you can go on and do something else.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay there.
It's true.
Stay there focused on it forever. And so don't worry that they can only do it half as good as you.
Yeah.
Get 5 people that can do it half as good as
Because
you.
use your talents for something that you really are into.
Right. Use your talents for other things. But if you just focus on what you can do, then there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
You can only do so much. I mean, you're going to have to stop. And so it's good to.
Well, that's one of my faults, and I know it.
Hey,
my wife tells me all the time.
yeah, it's hard, and my dad was the same way. My dad was very much like a do-it-himself kind of person, and whenever he would delegate it to somebody, he would just take it away and be like, I got this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're supposed to do it like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's your generation.
Yeah, that must be it. Huh?
It's your generation of just like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But I can encourage you, man, that your children are coming up behind you.
Yes.
And they're delegators. They're probably going to figure out how to delegate and how to get things done. And my dad, thank God he lived long enough to see me succeed in life. And he was so proud because he said, Joey, I just don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
He's like, you've got 125 employees. You're running, this thing. And my dad never had more than 10. Or
Right.
4 or 5, or 10 employees, but 5 of us were related to him.
Right. Yeah.
But he just never was able to. He didn't never see the vision of doing that because he was so determined to do it a certain way.
Right.
And anyway, so that's a delegation is a key thing. I'll pass that on my hat on to you.
Yeah.
And say, hey man, delegate it. And I'm gonna take some of it from you. I'm gonna take that tenaciousness of just continue to move forward, not just giving up. Whenever it gets tough, and you file a $6 million bankruptcy, wake up the next morning and say, okay, what's next?
Right.
Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Brother, it's great having you on the podcast, and I appreciate your time. And,
Thank you.
Looking
Been
forward
great to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to getting to have you back again. And if there's anything that you want to say in closing, is there anything you want to tell people about being tenacious?
Not necessarily being about tenacious. It's just, and this is a pet peeve for me, is you got to dress for success.
Dress for success. Okay. So dress for success. Know your room. And dress the way you should to be in there. So I see you got your shirt monogrammed, and you're looking successful. So that's a good word to pass on, brother. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, man. Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.